Let's start with the basics, because frankly, things are about to get complicated. On one side, you have Donald Trump, the former and current president of the United States, a man whose relationship with the news cycle is less of a partnership and more of a hostage situation. On the other side, you have Jeffrey Epstein, a deceased financier and convicted sex offender who cultivated friendships with some of the most powerful people on the planet. For years, whispers and rumors have swirled around Epstein's activities and, more importantly, a supposed client list detailing who was involved in his horrific sex trafficking ring. This brings us to the present day, August 2025, where the public's demand to see these files has reached a fever pitch, creating a massive political headache for the man in the Oval Office. The public's obsession with the Epstein files isn't just about morbid curiosity, it's rooted in a desire for accountability. People want to know which powerful figures enabled, participated in, or looked away from Epstein's crimes. Donald Trump's connection to this story is not new. He was known to socialize with Epstein in the past, a fact he has since tried to downplay significantly. Given that Epstein's arrest and subsequent death happened during Trump's first term in office, the entire affair is inextricably linked to his legacy. The lingering question for many Americans is simple. What does Trump know? And what might the files reveal about him or his associates? This isn't just a political scandal, it's a moral one, and the public is demanding answers that the administration seems unwilling to provide. The situation became particularly explosive after a series of broken promises. During his 2024 campaign, Trump fueled his base's expectations by vowing to release the Epstein files, positioning himself as the ultimate outsider, ready to expose the corrupt elite. However, after taking office, the story changed. In early 2025, his own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, claimed the infamous client list was on her desk, raising hopes to a fever pitch. But then, in a stunning reversal in July 2025, the Department of Justice and the FBI issued a memo stating that no such list ever existed. This whiplash-inducing contradiction has left many people, especially his own supporters, feeling betrayed and suspicious about what is being concealed from the public. This backdrop sets the stage for a desperate political strategy. With a significant portion of the American public, including a staggering 61% according to a recent Washington Post poll, believing the files contain embarrassing information about him, Trump finds himself in an incredibly precarious position. The Epstein saga is no longer a distant news story but a direct threat to his presidency and his personal reputation. The pressure is immense, not just from his political opponents, but from the very people who voted for him. Consequently, his administration has shifted into overdrive, not to provide clarity, but to change the subject entirely, hoping that if they make enough noise about other things, people will simply forget to ask about Epstein. One of the primary reasons for this frantic game of distraction is to shield the administration from severe political fallout. The timing of this renewed Epstein focus could not be worse for Trump. His administration recently pushed through a big, beautiful bill, as he called it, which unfortunately for many Americans contains deeply unpopular cuts to essential services like Medicaid, Medicare, and food assistance programs. As lawmakers head home for the August recess, their constituents are beginning to feel the real-world impact of these policies. The Epstein controversy, while damaging, serves as a convenient, albeit chaotic, smokescreen to divert public anger away from kitchen table issues and prevent a unified backlash against the GOP's legislative agenda. It's a classic case of choosing the devil you know over the one currently slashing your budget. Beyond the damage from his policies, Trump is facing a rebellion from within his own ranks. The MAGA base, which he cultivated with promises of draining the swamp and exposing the deep state, feels utterly duped. After he campaigned on releasing the Epstein files, the July 2025 memo from his own DOJ declaring no client list existed was seen as the ultimate betrayal. Online forums and social media are ablaze with accusations that Trump has been co-opted by the very deep state he promised to destroy. This internal crisis is arguably more dangerous for him than attacks from Democrats. To quell this MAGA rebellion, Trump needs to change the narrative and give his base a new enemy to focus on, lest their anger remain directed squarely at him. The personal risk for Trump cannot be overstated, which adds another layer of urgency to his distraction campaign. His past association with Epstein is well documented, including photos and on-the-record quotes where he spoke favorably of him years ago. With leaks suggesting his name appears in the unsealed documents, the scandal is no longer about abstract corruption, but about his own past conduct. An August 2025 poll confirmed that a majority of Americans suspect the files hold damaging information about him personally. This transforms the political problem into a deeply personal one, where every news report about Epstein feels like a direct attack on his character, forcing him into a defensive crouch from which he must lash out. This combination of factors has created a perfect storm. Trump is simultaneously trying to manage a fractured Republican Party, an enraged base, damaging policy blowback, and a personal connection to a toxic scandal. The divisions within the GOP have become so severe that House Speaker Mike Johnson recently shut down the House early to avoid a floor vote on the Epstein issue that would have publicly exposed the party's deep fissures. With pressure mounting from all sides, the only viable strategy left for the administration is not to confront the problem, but to try and make it disappear under an avalanche of other, more controllable controversies. It's a high-stakes gamble to survive the news cycle. To combat the relentless focus on the Epstein files, the Trump administration has deployed a well-honed tactic often described as flooding the zone. The strategy is simple in its design but overwhelming in its execution. Unleash a torrential downpour of information, announcements, and accusations on so many different fronts that the original scandal gets lost in the deluge. In the weeks following the disastrous DOJ memo, Trump's social media accounts became a whirlwind of activity. He posted hundreds of times about a dizzying array of topics, from celebrating minor legislative wins like the Genius Act to announcing new tariffs on foreign goods and boasting about Q2 GDP growth. The goal is to overwhelm the media and the public, making it impossible to focus on any single issue for long. This fire hose of content is deliberately chaotic, mixing serious policy announcements with petty personal feuds and pop culture commentary. One moment, Trump might be threatening legal action against a media outlet. The next, he could be weighing in on a celebrity dispute or promoting a new line of merchandise. This constant stream of noise ensures that reporters and news editors are constantly chasing the latest outrage, leaving them with little time or resources to conduct deep investigations into the Epstein matter. By creating a dozen new potential headlines every day, Trump effectively minimizes the importance of any single one, especially the one he wants to avoid. It's a strategy of manufactured chaos, designed to exhaust and confuse anyone trying to keep up. The strategy extends beyond social media and into official government actions. The administration has been quick to roll out policy initiatives and hold press conferences on topics completely unrelated to the Epstein scandal. For instance, while his base was fuming about the client list, the White House was busy touting the success of the Halt Fentanyl Act and celebrating positive economic data. These announcements are carefully timed to compete for airtime, providing cable news networks with alternative, pro-administration stories to cover. It forces a choice: lead with the complex, damaging Epstein story, or lead with a straightforward announcement about economic growth. For many outlets, the path of least resistance is to cover the new information, just as the administration hopes. Ultimately, this flood-the-zone approach is about seizing control of the narrative by brute force. It's a recognition that in the modern media landscape, attention is the most valuable currency. If you can't win the argument, you can still win the day by changing the conversation entirely. By constantly creating new micro-controversies, Trump ensures that the Epstein scandal, no matter how serious, has to compete for oxygen in an incredibly crowded room. The hope is that, eventually the public and the press will simply move on, not because the issue is resolved, but because they are too exhausted by the relentless onslaught of new distractions to continue paying attention. When flooding the zone isn't enough, Trump resorts to another one of his signature moves: deflection and projection. A cornerstone of his distraction strategy is to reframe the entire Epstein scandal as a political witch hunt orchestrated by his enemies. He has repeatedly labeled the controversy a hoax, drawing direct parallels to the Russia investigation that dominated his first term. By framing it this way, he attempts to convince his supporters that this is just another baseless attack from the deep state, the Democrats, and the fake news media. This narrative transforms him from a potential accomplice or enabler into a victim, a powerful and familiar role that resonates deeply with his base. To make these accusations stick, Trump and his allies have gone on the offensive. launching unsubstantiated attacks against their political rivals. A prime example is the recent campaign, spearheaded by Trump and his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to accuse former President Barack Obama of treason for allegedly manufacturing the Trump-Russia scandal. His administration has even made criminal referrals to the Department of Justice on the matter. This tactic is a classic misdirection. If you're being scrutinized for your ties to Epstein, create an even bigger, more explosive story about your opponent. It's an attempt to turn the tables and force the media to cover a narrative where Trump is the one exposing corruption, not the one hiding from it. Furthermore, the administration has aggressively engaged in whataboutism, pointing fingers at Democrats and questioning why they didn't act on the Epstein files sooner. Trump's surrogates frequently appear on news programs to argue that the Biden administration had 4 years to release these documents but chose not to, implying that Democrats are now weaponizing the issue for political gain. This line of argument is designed to muddy the waters and create a false equivalency, suggesting that both sides are equally culpable. It deflects responsibility and turns a clear call for transparency into a partisan squabble, which is far more comfortable territory for the administration. In conclusion, these distraction tactics, from flooding the zone with noise to blaming political enemies, are more than just political theater. They represent a concerted effort to evade accountability and control public perception in the face of a deeply damaging scandal. For people who simply want the truth about Jeffrey Epstein and his powerful associates, this strategy is a significant obstacle. It buries legitimate questions under a mountain of partisan noise and manufactured outrage. Understanding these tactics is the first step for the public to see past the smoke and mirrors and continue demanding the transparency that justice requires, regardless of who is trying to change the subject.